Hello everyone, B.O.B. here, and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. And today, we're gambling. See, I recently had a request to do a casino game, kind of like a slot machine. And, well, slot machine was kind of what I was going for, and I feel like I kind of nailed it. Uh, it does utilize shulker boxes, so this is definitely an end game build. But I mean, if you're building games, you're probably at end game status anyways. So, look at that, I won. If you get 3 gold in a row, oh, it'll spit out a diamond block, and it costs a diamond every time to play. Uh, I'm not sure about the ratios of wins or losses. I don't know. I do know you can adjust that. And I was going to do a tutorial on this, but, well, this is just too much fun. I think I'd rather just keep playing. Of course I am kidding. I am going to give you a tutorial on this, but as I said, this is definitely an end game build. It is quite expensive, kind of impractical, and as you can see, it gets just a little bit complicated. I mean, once you break it up into different sections, you realize it's not all that much, which is why I've color-coded the different circuits. That's a page out of Mumbo Jumbo's book. You know, you break up those circuits, and then it's a lot easier to, remember where all the redstone lines are going everywhere. So, well, let's get started. Now, for this build, you will need at least one chest, 7 hoppers, 7 droppers, 3 dispensers, 3 furnaces, and those are kind of optional. Mainly they're for decoration, but you'll see where you could change those out if you choose. You'll need 3 regular pistons, 3 sticky pistons, 8 redstone comparators, 22 redstone repeaters, 11 redstone torches. It's actually like 47 redstone dust, somewhere in there, but just bring a stack. It's just easier. Uh, you'll want at least 3 redstone lamps, 10 pieces of glass, 3 slabs of your choice. Any slab will do. You're also going to need a whole bunch of building blocks. You don't have to build it in different colors like I'm doing. You could do it all in one solid, you know, building block or whatever you want to do. I'm just doing that, to kind of make it easier to break up the tutorial and easier to follow. Um, as I said, this utilizes shulker boxes. You will need at least 6 of them. But if you want to adjust like win and loss ratios, you would do that by adding in more shulkers. Now, 3 of these shulkers you want just to be empty, and those ones I have colored white. And then the other 3, if you're going with only 6 shulkers, 6 shulker boxes, I should say, you'll want at least 1 item in them, in each of them, and it doesn't matter what item you put in those. You just need at least 1 item, so that way we can pull a comparator signal from that shulker box. Also, you're going to need 44 custom named items, and those could be any item you want, but you do want to name them to something different on a anvil, because we're going to use them for an item filter. You're going to need at least 1 diamond to put in that item filter. And then you'll need some diamond blocks to put in the prize dropper. Obviously, you probably don't have an extra 64 diamond blocks lying around. Just throw a couple diamond blocks in there until, maybe you either start winning some money with this thing or you lose out. Now, the area of this build is a 17 by 7 space, which I have outlined in smoothstone blocks here. But the build itself will drop about 4 blocks down underground, so uh, if you wanted this to be your ground floor, you'd want to dig down 4 blocks before you start building. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for this entire space. It's really only a few pieces of the machine that hang down beneath, mainly the item filter and these auto dropper circuits. Now we're going to start with the lowest point of the build, which would be your collection chest and item filter. And to get that put in place, you want to come to the long side of your build area here, and you want to count 5 blocks in from the corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and place a chest down right there. And come around to the back of that chest and then crouch and place a hopper feeding into that chest. then jump up on top of the hopper that you just placed while still crouched, and jump and place another hopper beneath you, another hopper there, and then you're going to want to come to the side closest to the edge of your build area there, and you're going to want to place a solid block on the side of that hopper, and do the same thing on the other side, but that one's only temporary. We are going to place another block right here on top of that. Now this block will be whatever your floor is actually made of, so if you wanted it to match the room or whatever, you'd want to specifically choose the block that you're building with as far as decorative. But this block down here, only temporary. It's just so we can place that block into place. And come out on this wing, you put it, the first block you place down on the side of the hopper, and then place a hopper feeding into that block. It has to be facing the direction of that block in order for the filter to work. So now we'll build the structure for our item filter, and basically on the end of that lower block you have placed there, you want to go ahead and place another block there, block on the bottom of that, and a block right below that. And then bring two blocks all the way out to the edge, and then on top of that last one you just placed, go ahead and place another solid block there, and then we could get rid of that bottom one if we choose. There's really no need for it there. While we're down here, let's go ahead and just place a repeater right there, so it's feeding from this block to this block, and we'll also place a comparator, pulling a signal from that hopper there and feeding into this block here. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump up here and place one more block right there, and then come up here right by the hopper and place a comparator. Oh, that's a repeater. A comparator pulling a signal from that hopper that is feeding into a solid block there, and then we want to just take redstone dust all the way down to the end of the structure here. Now with that, our item filter is basically in place. The one thing we need to do still is right above this comparator, your lowest comparator on the ground there, you want to go ahead and place a redstone torch on the block right above the block that comparator is feeding into. And that's the structure for our item filter. Now we just need to put in the filter part of it, and you're going to do that in the very top hopper here. And this is where your custom named items are going to come into play. And I did want to mention, use an item that stacks in 64s for these item filters. Don't use a 16 stackable or non-stackable items. They tend to mess up from time to time. But what you want is 11 of those custom named items in each of these 4 slots to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put the 44 there. I'm going to split that up into 22 and 22. Then we can split that up into 11 and 11, and then split up the first stack into 11 and 11. So we got 11 in each of these 4 slots, and then we're going to put our 1 diamond in that very first slot. And now that hopper will only accept diamonds. Anything else you drop on top of it is just going to sit on top of it, unless it's that custom named item you picked. But yeah, don't put those in there. That'll break your system. But you know, any diamond that comes through is going to drop down into your chest. And that diamond coming down into your chest is exactly what we're going to use to trigger this slot machine. We already have the first component in place, and that's that comparator right there. So whenever a diamond comes through that hopper, that comparator is going to steal a signal, and it's going to feed it into this solid block. Now what we're going to want to do is come to the back side of this, you know, opposing your chest, and coming out of that solid block, you're going to want to go ahead and place a repeater. So we're drawing that signal out that comparator is feeding in. We're going to feed that into another solid block, and we're going to stick a redstone torch on top of that. Then, well, I can't, no, I guess I can fly. Then we're going to want another solid block on top of that redstone torch. And for now, we're just going to leave that as a bare block. We're going to come back to that. So with this, our power function is basically in place. And this is, of course, assuming that you want to power the machine using the charge of a diamond. If you wanted to charge something else, obviously you could just replace that diamond with whatever it is you wanted to charge in order to use this machine. Or if you just wanted the machine free, you could basically just skip this whole section of it, and we could just put in a button. But for now, we're moving on to the slot section of the build. Now I'm going to be placing in some temporary blocks as well as some blocks we're going to be leaving in, and what I'm going to do is place down the smooth stone blocks for the temporary, and then I'm going to be switching to the colored concrete to build the auto dropper circuits. So what you want to do is come to your second hopper up and crouch place a temporary block up against that. Then we're going to go ahead and place in two of our permanent blocks, one temporary block, two more permanent blocks, another temporary block, and then two more permanent. And then we can go back through and just get rid of all of those temporary blocks that we placed in there. Now we're going to come to the back side of the machine opposing the chest, of course, and these little floating structures, you're going to want to make those 2 by 4 blocks wide. So we're going to bring that back another 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we can start getting our droppers in place. To place in the droppers, you're going to want to come up on top of these 2 by 4 platforms here, and you're going to come to the corner, well, the front corner, but the furthest away from our power function here. And you're probably going to want to crouch to do this, and you're going to want to place 2 droppers facing up. Do that on each of these platforms. Now you're going to want to place in some hoppers. So you're going to want to crouch place above the gap the hopper feeding into the bottom dropper of the stacks of 2, and you're going to want to do this on every platform. Then you're going to want to get your dispenser, and then you're going to want to come just stand on top of each of those hoppers you just placed, and you're going to want to crouch place dispensers. These ones have to be dispensers facing in over top of those hoppers. And here again, do it on all 3 of these platforms. And this part isn't 100% necessary, but I do recommend it. And I forgot to include these materials in the materials needed, but I mean, you just need 3 slabs. Go ahead and place a slab on top of each of these hoppers. Here again, not completely necessary. It's more of a visual thing, but it also does help to place the next few blocks. So what you're going to want to do is basically on the back side of this slab, go ahead and place a solid block, and then you'll want 2 more on top of that, and the top one's going to be temporary. And then right here beside the slab, in between that and your other dropper tower here, go ahead and place just 1 solid block there. And we're going to do this on all 3 platforms. Now we're going to go ahead and just put our pistons in place. So you want to come around to the front of the machine where you can see you should have this right here. And you're going to want to get real low, but on that top block that I said was going to be temporary, the top solid block there, you're going to want to place a piston. You're going to do that on the top of each of these little towers here. And now that those are in place, we could actually go through and get rid of those 3 temporary blocks. And then these solid blocks you placed in between here, right next to your dropper towers, that's where we're going to place our furnaces. And like I said earlier, this is actually optional. You don't really need furnaces here. You could just put in solid blocks. I was actually just trying to match the textures in the front here so it looks more consistent and it's not just a broken up, ugly looking machine, but it actually looks like it's supposed to be like this. And technically you could use like droppers or dispensers for this, but you'd be hearing extra clicks as you're using the machine, so I went with furnaces. Now this is most of the mechanical bits all set up. We're going to start working in a lot more redstone circuitry here. So what I want you to do is come down, we're going to come around to the back. On top of these floating platforms for our auto dropper circuits, we are going to build auto dropper circuits. So right beside the dropper on each of these platforms, the very front corner, go ahead and place a dash of redstone dust. Do that on each one of these platforms. Then you're going to want to grab some comparators and place one coming out of each of these droppers, all three platforms. Then beside those comparators, go ahead and place any solid block. Has to be a solid block. Actually, I want to use the block I'm building in here. So we're going to go ahead and place one right there. And on this far end, we don't have one in place. So we're going to crouch place one right up next to that hopper. So it's over top of your one dash of redstone dust right there in kind of a stair shape. And on these other platforms, we won't have to worry about that as we already have solid blocks in place there. So we just need to place down solid blocks beside our comparators on each of those platforms. Then we're going to switch to repeaters. You're going to have one repeater pulling a signal from that comparator and turn around and have the other one feed right into that solid block. Do that on each of these sides, or each of these platforms rather. Now get your redstone dust back out and put a dash of dust on the ends of each of these platforms, both blocks, so it feeds the signal from one repeater to the other. Now we want to get our main power signal sent through the machine. So how we're going to do that is we're going to come back here to that floating block we left right above that redstone torch coming out of your item filter there. And on the back side, you're going to want to place a block. And we're going to step up from here up to, well, this block here. So what we're going to do is just place a temporary block on top of that block. Another one on the side here, coming towards your machine. Do the same thing again, step it up. Oops, wrong direction. Get rid of that temporary block so we got a nice little staircase. And then we're going to just make a flat platform coming the whole way across the machine from here. So now you're going to want to come back over to the side with your chest and your item filter on it. And we're going to get out our repeaters. And right beside each of those pistons, go ahead and place a repeater and then click it 3 times so it's on a 4-tick delay. And then here on the end, we're going to add just one more repeater right there and give that a 4-tick delay as well. Now, we're going to need to extend this delay even further. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn a little corner here. We're going to add one block there, another block coming to the back of the machine there. And then we're going to step up again. So let's do our little temporary block, one block towards the back of the machine. And then we're going to build sort of a little lip around these 2 blocks here. So we have that one block floating in the air there, one block on the side of that, 2, 3, 4, bringing that back up in line with your pistons, and then go ahead and bring that bridge the whole way across to your piston. Now we're going to go back to our repeaters, and we're going to place one right here so it's feeding from this empty space. We can actually put a dash of redstone dust right there. So it's now feeding from that dash of redstone dust into this solid block. We're going to give that repeater 4 ticks as well. And then a dash of redstone dust on top of that solid block and to the side. Turn around, we're going to have another repeater feeding back the other direction. So that one, 4-tick delay as well. Another one right here, 4-tick delay as well. We're going to actually place a solid block right here on that corner. And then one more repeater with a 4-tick delay coming out of that solid block. And then we can go ahead and place a redstone torch on top of that solid block. So now we're going to work in a couple of pieces of glass, 4 to be more specific, and we're going to put those basically in between our pistons here so they're forming a little bridge from piston to piston. And now we can come all the way back over to the beginning here, and we're going to place a redstone torch on top of that very first block that we left bare earlier, and you see it's right above that other redstone torch. So that torch turns off automatically, and now we can go ahead and put in our redstone line. So right beside our redstone torch, place one dash of dust, and then bring that up those stairs we built earlier, and then link up repeater to repeater till it feeds all the way into this tick delay here. And then we're going to actually take some solid blocks and place across the top of those. So on top of your very first piece of redstone dust here, let's go ahead and place a block, and then we can actually just bring a solid line all the way across. Let's go from piston to piston. And then that'll make sure our redstone lines stay divided, because we're going to bring another redstone line across the top of your pistons here. So coming from this repeater here, place redstone dust on every block all the way up to the one right before your piston there. So now we need to detect our winning shulker boxes, and I'm going to be switching to a different colored concrete for this section here. But you want to come to the back of the machine, and below your repeaters, well, 2 blocks down from that, so it'll be like right above your floating platforms. Go ahead and place a solid block right there, and then we're going to bring another one diagonally up from that. So place a temporary block, then step up. So you have this shape right here, and you want to do this on each of these little pillars that you got hanging down here. Now we're going to get our comparators and have those comparators pull a signal from the solid blocks that the repeaters are sitting on top of. So they'll be feeding into these floating blocks, and do that on each of these 3 platforms you just built. Now put redstone torches on top of those floating blocks. More floating blocks on top of those redstone torches. More redstone torches on top of those floating blocks. Now we're going to come to the other side here, and we are going to place another floating block on top of these redstone torches, and then one to the side of the redstone torches coming in the direction of your pistons here. And you're going to do that on each of these torches. And now you're going to want to bring these out one more block like that, so they're overlapping your structure below. And then we're going to switch back to the glass, and we're going to bring these out just another 2 blocks on the end of each of these. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Then we're going to want to go ahead and grab our redstone lamps, and we're going to place just 1 lamp on the end of each of those little glass platforms we have sticking out over there, and then 1 solid block on top of each of those redstone lamps. Now we're going to get our redstone dust and just run a line all the way across each of these platforms, just like that, coming from the floating block all the way to your redstone lamp there. So now we just need to put in our reward circuit, and we're going to start off by placing sticky pistons on top of these floating blocks, facing in over your redstone lines there, and we're going to do that on each of these floating blocks. And then I'm going to be switching colored concrete again to a lighter blue to differentiate that this is now the winning, the reward circuit. And I'm going to build a structure like so. We're going to place one right on top of that redstone torch right there. And then on the side, right above the repeater feeding into that block below, we're going to go ahead and place another redstone torch. Place a block on the side coming towards your sticky pistons, you know, your redstone line here, but also place a block on the top of that torch as well. And then we're going to go ahead and place one more, so it brings that platform all the way up to the edge of this platform here. Then we're going to place a solid block on the end of that sticky piston. Come back in line with where we were before, and we'll actually just place a temporary block there. Another one on top of that, and we can break that temporary out, and then so we have another 2 block bridge in between. Another block on the edge of the sticky piston. Another temporary block, a 2 block platform. Another block on the edge of the sticky piston. Another temporary block. This time we're going to come out. We're going to build our 2 block platform. But from here I'm actually going to switch blocks, because this is actually part of this would actually be visible. So I'm going to use smooth stone for this, and I'm going to bring that out 1, 2, 3 blocks all together. So this last block is basically right above your item hopper there, your diamond input, if you will. Now we're going to come back to the very beginning of the little platform we just added on. And coming out of this solid block that has the redstone torch underneath it, we're going to go ahead and just place one dash of redstone dust. And now we're going to be placing in a whole bunch of repeaters. So one here, drawing a signal from that redstone dust. And then on your 2-block floating platforms, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So all of these repeaters are only in place to ensure this redstone line does not connect with the redstone line above it, and these pistons are only going to trigger when there's a winning box below. So this is our winning circuit, and so we're going to just bring a redstone line all the way out to the end of this. We're going to get our very last dropper. We're going to come down beneath that little arm that's hanging out there. We're going to just stick that dropper in place. And this is our reward dropper, so this would be where you're placing your diamond blocks or whatever it is you are using as a reward for this machine. And believe it or not, that's the machine just about finished. We just need to get our shulkers in place and we should be good to go. Now I'm in creative mode and I'm rich, so I'm going to go ahead and just place a full stack of diamond blocks inside my reward dropper. And as I said, you don't necessarily have to have a full stack. I mean, it's going to dispense one at a time. So however many you put in here, well, that's how many rewards you have to claim. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be diamond blocks. If you're doing some sort of different reward system, you could put whatever you wanted in here. But it's only going to dispense one item at a time as it's wired in there now. Um, then we just need to get all our shulker boxes in place, and in the dispensers, specifically the dispensers, you want to place one of each shulker box. So one colored one, like I'm using the yellow, it kind of looks like gold, with the items inside it. Those are the winning boxes, and then the white boxes are basically what I'm calling dud boxes. They have nothing inside, but you'll want to put one of each in each of the dispensers, and make sure you are placing them inside the dispensers and not one of the droppers. And our machine should be good to go. Now, like I said, I'm in creative mode and I'm rich, so I just went ahead and grabbed myself a stack of diamonds, but we can go ahead and take this thing for a test run. Drop a diamond on the top hopper there. You can see, yeah, all losing boxes there. They all get dispensed back up, and they all should return into the dispensers they were first dispensed from. And those are completely at random. Dispensers and droppers. As you can see, we won that time. And we get a diamond block in return. Don't worry about that diamond block falling inside your item filter here. We have set this up so it only accepts diamonds. And here again, if you didn't want to charge diamonds, if you didn't want to do anything along those lines, you could just take out this whole segment altogether and just power this redstone line with a button. This line is your main input. So however you want to power this machine is really up to you. And also what I'm going to leave up to you is the decorating part of it. I will give you another look at how I did mine. You see I got quartz half slabs here on the bottom. I put quartz stairs around across the front of the machine. And as you're decorating, in front of these half slabs, right below where your shulker boxes will be dispensed, you do want to have either stairs or a full block of some sort, and that's going to help ensure that your shulker box isn't popping out of the machine, although I haven't really had much of that in the testing, so I don't really see it as much of a problem. Still probably recommended. Also, with this solid block we had next to our item filter, we could get rid of that, and if you wanted, you could put in, stairs like I did over here. I just got some gold blocks to make sort of pillars in the corners. I'm lighting the thing with end rods. Like I said, I'm going to leave the decorating up to you. If you wanted to go off of my design, help yourself. That's fine with me. The important part of the machine is this all over here. One last final note, as I said earlier in the video, you could adjust your win and loss ratios by adding more shulkers to the system. For example, if you wanted to have a higher chance of winning than losing, you would add in more of the loaded boxes or the winner boxes, the boxes with items inside them. And if you wanted it to be harder to win the game, so you'd be losing more often, for example, if you're running the machine, trying to get your friends to play with their diamonds, yeah, you might want to add more just empty shulker boxes in them, dud boxes. And you would want to do that probably in each dispenser that you're adding to or taking from. As long as you have one of each, it should still be I would think it would be more loss than win. I don't know. My playing around with it, I didn't really didn't really do the math on it. I just had fun doing it. It's really fun. I'm glad I built this. And that, my friends, concludes today's tutorial, and I hope you found this helpful. And if you did enjoy this video, please remember to hit that like button. And if you're interested in seeing more from me, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching and wish you a wonderful day.